Welcome back, or welcome. Glad you're here either way. We are on to World 3 of I Want a Lockpick today, where I will be explaining the logic to solve every individual puzzle in this world. My hope is that this can help you solve some future puzzles and understand how to solve them from this, rather than just finding a solution. I try to separate it out in a way that you can pause and try to solve it from the information that I've given so far, but the full solutions will of course also be in the video. As per usual, you should absolutely play this game if you haven't, and come back if and when you want some help, or just to see how I solve them. And lastly, there will be timestamps so you can jump to whichever level you're stuck on. Spoiler warning for master keys, blank doors, and bulk doors. If you're unfamiliar with any of these mechanics, either play the game or watch my previous videos. None of them are terribly complex on their own, but if nothing else, seeing their home levels can give you a better perspective on how they can be used from a logical standpoint. But without any further ado, yay, tutorial level! Blast doors are a type of door that will take all of your keys, no matter the count, which means you don't have to spend more than one if you don't have to. And this level shows you that. It's a simple demonstration, not using more oranges/purples than necessary on the blast doors, so that way you'll have 2 oranges to leave. For this one you can immediately see that you need 8 purples to leave, which means you gotta get through every gate. However, if you go down the routes with blank pinks, you normally have no way to get past them. But thankfully, there's only 4, and to get the rest of the cyan, you'll have to open a pink blast. So basically, you just grab all the pinks from the blank routes, go open the blast door, and get your keys, and then you can grab everything and leave. As the description states here, you'll need to spend all your keys, and can use 1 blast door to aid you in that. You're forced to lose 7 of each at the end, so you know that effectively, you'll only have 13 white and 33 orange to actually spend. However, a glance at the other white doors available shows that there's no combination that adds up to 13, so you'll instead just need to focus on getting through and spending your oranges fully. Summing up all of the oranges minus the 24 is only 19, so you do know that that is a first open. This brings us down to just 9 more keys that you actually have to spend, which would have to be from the 5, both 1s, and the 2. So now we just need to find the route which spends 13 or less white, which, as far as I can tell, is only possible from going through the top route, grabbing the 1 orange, going through the middle route, opening the 2 from the right side, spending the 7 for each, and finally blasting your whites and leaving. The logic that I use to solve this level is courtesy of the Lockpick wiki, because I simply could not figure out how to solve this in a logical way. I feel like it's pretty easy to actually solve just like on a hunch basically. But I try to avoid using the wiki as much as possible, and will clarify when I do so like I am here. So to get started, because most of these keys and doors are mod 3, meaning they can be divided by 3 without a remainder, we can use that to determine the effective cyan costs of, hypothetically, opening all the non-mod 3 doors. Which, for the record, those are the 1 door, 4 door, and the blast door. The 1 door is 1 mod 1, as is the 4 door, and the blast door is 2 mod 3 since your starting 5 keys are 2 mod 3, and there's no way to get rid of the extra 2 otherwise. That is a total of 4 mod 3 cost, or 1 mod 3, but since you start with 2 mod 3 keys, it's impossible to get past the blank doors at the end purely off cyan keys. So, you'll have to find a use for that master key that modifies the mod cost to be 2 mod 3. If you use it on the 1 or the 4 doors, that makes the cost 3 mod 3 or 0, which isn't 2 mod 3. However, if you hit the blast door, that does make the cost 2 mod 3, so now you know where the master key gets used. And at this point, you could pretty easily guess and or just count the locks to find how to leave, but the wiki notes a way to further use modular math to solve it. Now looking at things through mod 6, we have to spend at least 8 mod 6, aka 2 mod 6 keys to leave, since the 3 at the start, the 1, and the 4 are all first. But since we start with 5 mod 6 keys, we need to spend another 3 mod 6 on the remaining 3 door to make it valid. Thus, you'll need 18 keys as well to leave. So, to wrap this up, grab your 12, open both 6 doors at the start, master the blaster, grab your 18, open the 12 and 3, and skedaddle. Another tutorial level! this time on triangle keys as they call it, but they're exact keys. They set you to their count no matter what you were at previously, and this puzzle is just showing you that you may want to make full use of your keys in situations like these before you actually take the exact keys. But I really hope you didn't need a thorough breakdown of this level, because it's really not hard. The key to this level is just making sure to be min-maxing your profits, hence the name. Since you need all the cyan keys, you can safely pin the 4 door as the last one to open, since you'll just be losing 4 orange from it without gaining anything else. The 3 and 5 doors are both neutral opens, so you can just open those at any time as long as you have the minimum count, such as right at the start for 3. Then the top doors are both profits, which gets you up to 7 keys. This means you can get the other neutral door done and open the 6th door. If you took the exact key now though, you'd be wasting a key you could use at the bottom, so open one down there first. This also means those remaining doors are now a profit of 1 key once you open it and get to the keys. So, when you take the exact key, opening those last couple doors will bring you up right to 4, and then you can get the last cyan keys and get out. So firstly, for every gate you get an even number of keys on, you then need to get to an odd count, and vice versa. Working backwards, you know the 50 will have to be used with an exact key because otherwise there's just no way to get to the proper count. Since there's only 3 ways to get to an odd count and the 50 is at the end, you'll have to open the 24 door for the key before the 50 keys. So either you use that one on the first or for the 8 gate. Additionally, since again there's only 3 ways to get to an odd count, the exact 2 has to be used for the 5 keys, since there's otherwise just no way to get down to that. Which makes that particular part trivial, but also means to get across you'll have to use the 6th door. The most efficient way across is by opening the bottom 2 gate, since the alternative is effectively useless, and then opening your blank door, grabbing both of the top 4 keys, which gets you to exactly 6, which also means that after you open the 6th door, you can open another blank. Then you have to grab 4 more white, and by doing the math, you can see getting 24 from here is actually impossible. At most you can get 22. Thus, you have to spend your 4 on the 1 door and get past that first gate. Then, for the 8, we know we have to use the 24 door here, and again, by counting, the only way to get to 24 is by grabbing the 3 8 whites. It's fairly trivial to do that, just need to spend all the ones you got, then open the blank and collect your keys. And at this point, it's effectively free as it's just finishing off what little is left of the level, and it's stuff we already figured out anyways, so take your leave. This one's genuinely a very weird step down in difficulty to me. Maybe there is some deep-seated logic to it, but you can pretty easily freehand it in my opinion. There's a couple of moves that you know are first right off the bat, the 6 at the start obviously, and the 8 in the top right. You either have to cross via the 4 or the 5, since if you don't cross now you won't be able to spend the 8 afterwards. But the secret truth is that it really doesn't matter what you pick, both routes can win. If you go for the 4, then you can spend your 5 on the available 3 and 2, spend your 8, spend the 2 on the left, and then take the remaining purples and open the blast door and leave. Or, if you go 5, you can spend your 4 on the 3 door, then do 8, and then, because of the 4 being available, you can just spend the 6 on that, and a 2 to progress, and then the same dealio effectively. It's just strangely easy. I am curious if there is some actual logic you can apply to solve it, or if I'm just a natural genius. A world without 10 base levels? This is unbelievable. Anyways, you need 3 white to leave, which means the orange door is first. Since that needs a cyan, and a cyan blast door is first, before that, you know you'll need to spend a key to save 1 for later before you cross. Additionally, this means the double cyan door is useless. So, your 3rd white needs to be accessible from elsewhere, which, if you observe it, you may actually notice the key right before getting the orange key, and more importantly the door behind it, is actually a neutral open, which is the only direct one in the level besides the cyan. So, as long as you can just get to that door and the orange one, you're going to be able to leave. And I trust you can understand the path to get over there with all the logic that has been explained thus far. It's a fairly simple open the doors to move where you need to move to thing. I feel like most of you understand that at this point. And then with the 3 whites in tow, you can take your leave. So you need 2 whites to leave on this level, which the only way to get to 2 is via a white door. So you know you'll need to get the one at the bottom, at least, to get out. You can also exclude even bothering with the left path on the bottom, since there's no keys there, excluding a useless 0 exact key, and if you wanted to get to the white from there, you need to spend a white, so it's pointless. In terms of progressing, since there's no blank doors, there's no reason to spend excess keys on one of the exact keys, so you should always just try to spend as much as possible before taking a 0 key. It's honestly a pretty simple level if you understand exact keys well enough. It's just a bunch of opening doors even if you don't need the key behind it right now, so you won't waste it on an exact key later. Hopefully you don't need to play here, but you can slow down the video if you do. So, first big observation here is that you'll need that one door in the bottom left no matter what you do, since you start on an odd count and all normal keys and doors are even besides that. Next, you can tell that the exact key is first because every key and door besides the one in the top left are multiples of 4, but if you spin the 1, you need to spend another 2 to actually be able to have your cyan key count mod 4 equal to 0. So, effectively, you'll need to find a way to get rid of at least 24 cyan keys, since by the time you've gotten there, the 2 doors are free to hit and the 1 will have to be hit at some point anyways. Taking a brief detour to orange, there's a total of 32 that you'll have to spend, but only 22 keys worth of doors, so you know the blast door will be first. However, because of the 12 keys after the 4 door at the top, you know you can't open the 2 cyans at the bottom until after you take the exact key, since 12 keys means that you'd have to spend 36, and there's just not enough doors for that. This means the total count that you'll have to spend now is at least 28 cyan keys because of the 4 at the bottom, which is spendable by breaking through the top cyan 4 before the exact key to clear the 12 out early, which leaves 28 keys worth of cyan doors. Additionally, if you look into the orange doors you thus have to open to not pick up any more cyan while still being on target, you know 1, that you'll need the blast door by the 16 key, and 2, you can't open every door you need if you just blasted the entirety of the 16 keys, so the 6th door will be first and thus must be made accessible before the exact key. So, to finally play the level a bit, you begin by opening either of that key-heavy routes and then working towards the 6th door with the other 2, although this route is probably a bit flexible overall. Then, once you get to the 16 keys, open all the doors you need, leaving 1 2 door in the 6, making sure you've picked up all the excess keys, and then grab your exact, hit the blast door, and lastly, just open the route to spend your remaining 20 if you haven't already, get down to 0, open the orange door either way, open that final door, get out. It's really not that hard once you get to this point. The final level of World 3! The 0 master key at the end means that we'll need to get down to 0 of everything to leave. And we can, of course, immediately see that we'll need to use 1 master key on the brown door. So, we already can get rid of 1. We'll have to open every orange door normally, because just counting it up, and we can also thus identify a good few first opens off of that because of the 0 master keys. Summing up everything so far, we know that we'll need to spend 5 white and 12 pink. Because of the 12 pink, we'll need to also grab the 6 pink to have any chance to actually get to 0, which adds up to a total of 21 pinks. Which, it just so happens, is the total count from the pink doors, so we know we'll also be opening every pink door normally. Lastly, for white, we'll have to use a master key for the 6, since we can't get any more whites via any other route. As for that final master key, you don't actually need it. Doing a classic count the locks, all the remaining white locks add up to 16, same as the keys. And we already solved for the rest, so we simply don't need to spend it and solve for the level. It's overall not too bad, and with that, we have finished up the infrastructure. And with that, that is one more world down, although honestly I would say that this is one of the more forgettable worlds overall. That is not to say the mechanics are bad though, not at all. But I only really found like one level, 3-C, all that memorable personally. But like I said, I really can't call it bad. I only ever remember thinking one world was really lame, but It felt like it was mostly a way to get the player familiar with mechanics rather than having a bunch of great puzzles to use them with, although, again, I still enjoyed them. As for the mechanics themselves, as with most of these mechanics in this game, they are incredibly important at the very least, and I think they're really interesting, and I think they're usually pretty fun to work with as well. Blast doors and exact keys are a similar principal concept, but basically applied in reverse, and I think they're both really fun when you actually get to use them in a logical manner. They're just both very interesting. They provide a huge insight into many levels in the logic sense, and they're definitely a favorite puzzle piece for me. But I digress. Hopefully this has gotten you through this world with a super awesome, great understanding of like everything. If I recall, the difficulty does start to noticeably go up from World 4 onward, so just heads up going forward. This probably will make the time between videos longer, but it'll mostly just be making the videos longer. Regardless, it shouldn't get too bad until the like truly late game stuff, and you'll know when we're there, I promise. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next world. Goodbye.